You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today. We have another amazing show lined up for y'all today. Today, we have a special guest. His name is Bob Lobby. Go to his website, boblobby.com. Man, do you like golf? Well, we're about to step into the greens because this guy is an expert when it comes to everything about golf. He has an amazing book. He's the author of Putting by the Numbers. We're going to learn about all the techniques that he has been able to bless others with and sharing his knowledge about the game of golf and golfers who are particularly interested in improving their game. And first and foremost, I want to cut to the chase and say thank you for being on today on the show. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I want to thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I appreciate your time. So let's start out with the big idea. When you think about the process of writing your book, Putting by the Numbers, what was the process like for you in the beginning?
Well, I was such a terrible putter when I started playing golf in 1996. I didn't realize that until I got into the game a little bit, how poor I was at putting the ball long distances on or off the green. But I learned very quickly it was killing my score, okay? So the inspiration for writing the book was, they say necessity is the mother of invention. Well, that was a necessity. I had to do something, and being an engineer, I had to figure it out, and so that's what I did. It took me 25 years, though, before I put it in print, because as an engineer, you don't put anything in writing until you're sure it's correct.
You also have physics that you put into this whole process. So kind of give us the whole game plan as far as through the engineer lens.
Okay. Well, the thing about this whole idea of mine is it's about force and friction. Okay. The putting surface has a frictional resistance. The fringe does. The fairway does, and the first cut of rough does. But they're all different frictional resistance. And when you strike a golf ball with your putter, you're applying a force to it. And if you could take and quantify those things like I did in my book, then you'd have something that is accurate, reproducible, and something that will drastically improve your your putting and your score. And, this all got started by Edward Stimpson, was the guy who invented the stimp meter back in 1935 at Oakmont at the U.S. Open. And they didn't start using it on the USGA PGA Tour until 41 years later in 1976. But his method of establishing the speed of a green is used in virtually every golf tournament around the world, and establishing of the speed of greens. The pros play on 12, 13 levels. Us amateurs play 10 and 11 at the most. But that's how it got me thinking. I said, if you could get a qualitative method of establishing the speed of the green surface, then you got to be able to figure out a quantitative method, and that's what I did.
When you think about golfers, we separate the amateurs from the pros. I remember my sister and I, back in freshman high school, we took golfing lessons in the summer. It wasn't pretty in the beginning, but when we got the bases down, it was pretty good. We did about 6 holes and we waved a white flag because being on the fairway is not as easy as you watch on TV. But when you think about the pros versus the amateurs, separating the two, what do you believe outside the driving distance and the flashy shots is the most fundamental core of a mindset when they're on the course? Because it's more like you can't just be flashy. You got to really understand how the game is played.
Well, that's true, and the touring professionals that play on the PGA Tour understand the fact that the short game is really, really the most important part of the game. If you're good with the short game around the green and putting on the green, you're going to be an outstanding golfer. The rest of the game with the 13 other clubs it's a matter of practice, practice, practice. That's really kind of what golf's all about. Practice and repetition, practice and repetition. And that's how you get to be good. I'm 82 years old now, and I've got a 7 handicap, but it's not because of my 13 other clubs in the bag. It's because of my putter. Because last year at age 81, I had 30.5 putts per 18-hole round, which is pretty good for an amateur like me. The pros, they try to do 28 to 26, 24, but I can't get down to that level. I'm not that good.
Golfers, in your book, golfers, they potentially reduce their scores by 4 to 5 strokes per round. What makes lag putting that powerful?
Well, generally speaking, most recreational and amateur golfers, even the club pros, when they hit the ball into the green with one of their short irons or long irons, they usually don't get it too close to the hole. So anytime you have a long putt, that's lag putting. And then it becomes a question of, if you don't have that touchy feeling in your body to know how hard to hit that ball. But the pros, they're playing 5 to 6 days a week, so they got the touchy stuff, and they're athletes. But guys like me that only play once or twice a week now, and guys that only play once or twice a month, you don't have that practice. You don't have that touchy motion unless you're really an athlete. So consequently, if you say, if I could quantify something, and so I did that by saying, hey, everybody has to rock their shoulders when they putt the ball. Okay, so rocking the shoulders back and forth, I call that the individual power factor. And then if you're able to view distances like on a ruler, like 1 inch to 12 inches, and you're able to retract your putter a given distance and then strike through the ball, and what the frictional resistances of the putting green, the fringe, the fairway, or the first cut of rough is, you can calculate arithmetically how many inches behind the ball do you need to stroke it, get your putter before you stroke through the ball. And it really works well because generally speaking, 96, 97, 98% of the time, when I stroke the ball from 50, 60, or 70 feet, I end up between 0 and 3 feet and 0 and 5 feet all the time. So I'm happy with that, because then when you do that, all you got to do is practice your 3 to 5 foot short putting, and you can get real good at 3 to 5 foot short putts if you practice them a lot.
When people check out the book, they might hear numbers and feel, man, this might be a little bit harder to understand, but you break it down where it's very simple to grasp. So how simple is it for people to apply the system and not be overwhelmed by overthinking about it?
Well, that's a good question, and I think the answer to that, first of all, attached to my book are 2 tutorials. One's an in-home video that's about 10 minutes long, and then there's an on-course video that's 23 minutes long. And I visually show you how I do my method and how it all works. And then when you get done looking at those videos, if you go out and you practice this method 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week for 6 weeks, you'll have it pretty well down. And then you'll find out if the method works for you. But if you can do simple arithmetic in your head, which most people can do, you shouldn't have any problems with it. And the other thing you have to be able to differentiate is visualizing 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches up to 12 inches, so you know how far to retract your putter before you strike through the ball. Those 2 things are very important, that you be able to visualize the distance you retract your putter, and you be able to know the distance you are from the hole, so you know how far to strike it with a given frictional resistance.
Once again, this on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Bob Lobby. Go to his website, boblobby.com. My next question for you is, what are some of the mistakes that you've seen golfers make a lot of times, even as an amateur trying to learn the game? And how do they start to rely on the feel and the structure between, the game of putting and also understanding how it all works together?
Well, I think a lot of beginning golfers, recreational and amateur golfers, they get excited when they have a really good hole. Okay. And then their mind starts saying, well, gosh, if I'm on the third hole and I've birdied the first hole and parred the last two, gosh, I can really have a great score. Well, you can't get ahead of yourself in this game. Every stroke that you hit on the golf course, as Lee Trevino said, it's 10 to 15 seconds of total concentration. You block everything else out of your mind, and you're looking at that ball for 10 to 50 seconds, and you've got to be 100% committed to your swing and your stroke. Now, if you can do that and you don't get ahead of yourself, you don't have these ideas that you're going to play really well, but you can't, and you consider every stroke as the next challenge, because everything's behind you. The past doesn't matter anymore. It's all about this stroke and everyone thereafter. But that's where most amateurs make the mistakes, is they get ahead of themselves in the game, and they don't pay enough attention to the short game. The short game around the green and on the green is so important. You know, short game, just the putting, there's 36 potential putts in the 72 round if you two putt every green. That's half the game. So when you consider it from that arithmetic perspective, you got to say, my gosh, if putting is half the game, do you see anybody out there practicing putting 50% of the time? And the answer to that is no. And people should practice putting and play around the green as much as possible and approach that 50%, but they don't.
For someone who's watching this and listening, and they may never play golf ever before, maybe it's because they're worried about embarrassing themselves, like I was back in freshman year in high school. But when they understand that this is opportunity to not just learn the game of golf, but apply it while it's still early, what would you suggest to them to start right away to get comfortable?
Well, I think what's really cool about the game of golf is the nice people that you meet when you're playing golf. I mean, everybody that's playing golf, I have never met a person on a golf course that I really didn't like. I mean, these people are so kind, so gentlemanly and ladylike, and I mean, it's just, you just feel like you're in always good company when you're on the golf course. You know, and so that's the first thing I would tell to people, young people, is that, hey, if you want to be around a nice bunch of people, just go to a golf course, and then you'll be in the right crowd, and then everybody that plays golf has the same challenges. They all have the same challenges of scoring well. We all have it's almost like fish stories, you know. We lost that last big fish because of this, but in the game of golf, you didn't make that birdie because you didn't putt the ball well or something like that. So, yeah, I think that getting started young playing golf is important. And the other thing is, golf is a great game if you're in the business world. If you got customers or representatives, however you fit into the business world, you can take them out on the golf course, and you'll be able to determine the kind of person they are on the golf course, because if you have a penalty, you got to call it on yourself. Nobody else is going to call it on you. So golf is a game of the honorable and the honesty, integrity of people playing the game against themselves and being honest when they make a mistake.
What role does confidence play when standing over a long putt? We've seen major amazing putts on TV. I like watching during April, obviously. But from your experience, what role does confidence play?
It's enormous. Confidence when you're putting a ball. And that's what I like about the quantitative method of putting a ball, is because, you know, you hit a nice, let's say a 7-iron into the green, you might be 3 or 4 feet off the green, but you're 60 feet away from the pin. when you have quantitative putting on your side and you understand how to implement and execute it, you come to the green with a plan in mind. You're not just coming to the green and saying, I got to putt this ball. I know what I'm going to do when I come to the green, and that helps you immensely with confidence in doing it. And, everybody that putts the ball should look at that ball from behind the ball, walk across the other side of the hole, look back and see how the green is flowing, and then look at the putt from the side, and then come back behind the ball and look at it again. That goes with every form of putting. And then once you know that, and when you get the quantitative method of putting, you know how far you are from the ball, you know exactly what to do. And what's cool about it, quantitative putting doesn't take any longer to execute than anybody just putting their regular method.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online. Talking to our guest today, Bob Lobby. Go to his website, boblobby.com. When you see young people excited about golf, I mean, I'm just from the outside looking in. I've been noticing a lot more people talking about golf, a lot more people watching on TV, not just in April for Masters, but other times throughout the year, people are still talking about golf. What do you believe is the cause of the rise of the popularity?
Well, I think there's been a lot and of course, I've been around for 82 years, and I was watching golf with my dad back in the 50s and 60s, and watching Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and all those great players of those early years. And that was a beginning for me. And then what's kind of interesting and what's changed in the game of golf is that golf has become more of an athletic game, because the golfers are working out, they're getting physically in better shape. Tiger Woods is a good example. Tiger Woods kind of set the pace for the new golfers today, because you see these new golfers, these professional golfers out on the tour now, they've worked out, they're really athletes, and they're getting the most out of their body so they can deliver it to their game of golf. And that's what makes golf a highly competitive athletic sport today, because the people that are playing at the highest level are really athletes.
And touch on that part of being athletic. I mean, that's a whole system in itself. We can go deep in the woods on that. But when you think about, I heard people say it once before, and that is above the neck is the game. How much of that is facts, or is there any gray area in that statement?
Well, I think that's a fairly accurate statement. I mean, when you take up the game of golf, I would recommend that everybody that takes up the game of golf goes to a PGA professional, takes 4 or 5 lessons about the long game, the short game, the game from the fairway, playing out of the bunkers, playing around the green, and learn what each of the clubs in that 13 club roster is and how to use them. Then the key is practice, practice, practice. Now, when you get done with all of that and you become fairly knowledgeable how to use each club, and you're still going to make mistakes because everybody does, then that 90% above the neck becomes very important, because it's in your mind has got to be totally focused. And when you're in a tournament, and I've been in a number of just amateur tournaments over the last 30 years, and when you're over that putt and it's 4 feet to make your birdie to win that hole with your team, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And when you got to be completely focused, that's when that 90% kicks in up here. You got to be so focused, and you get nervous, but you got to overcome those nerves, and you do that with your focused mentality. And so that 90% number is not too far from being true.
When you think about young people again, who maybe just recently been introduced to the game of golf, maybe they feel like they're stuck at making the same mistakes, and they're a little bit frustrated. Based on your ability to practice the game for such a long time, what would you say encouragement for them to overcome those frustrations?
Well, if they're putting in the work, that's key. If you put in the work and you're having trouble with a particular swing or stroke, I had a time. It seemed like every July, I would have a time where I would shank the ball. Okay, and now of course, when you shank the ball, you're hitting the ball close to the hosel and you're knocking it off to the right for a right-hander. And so when you have a problem and it's repetitive and you don't know how to fix the problem, then you go to your club pro or a teaching pro and say, hey, guy, I'm having this problem. And they'll show you the methodology to correct it. And then you got to work on that correction. And so I had that shanking problem, and I went to our club pro and I said, hey, help me out. So he took me out on the driving range and he showed me what I was doing and how to correct the problem. And boy, I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. Now I would say once in a blue moon, I shank the ball now, because I know exactly how to avoid a shank because I had a teacher teach me, and that's what you need. When you have a problem with any club, whether you're slicing it or hooking it, there's always a reason why you're doing that, and a club pro or teaching pro can show you the solution to your problem. And get that immediate attention to it, because you want to keep doing it over and over, because you'll get in a bad habit. So if you find you got a problem, go to a teaching pro, a PGA pro, have him show you what the answer is, and then practice.
Another thing that we hear in golf too is how you're supposed to hit that ball when you're trying long distance in the fairway. Off your experience, I mean, the way I was taught in Michigan when I was doing lessons is about the mechanics more so than how hard you can hit it. From your experience, what has been that secret sauce or that kind of good core foundation that helps you hit that ball on the fairway in good distance?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, because it's not about swinging hard. It's not about trying to crush the ball. It's about trying to get every facet of your body together in the proper swinging momentum. It's almost like dancing. It's artistic when you think about it, because you keep that left arm straight if you're a right-hander, and then you make the full turn such that your left shoulder comes to the ball when you're making your full swing, and you're putting that weight on your right foot. And when you make the transition and come through, the weight transfers to your left foot, and your arms are extended, and then you hit that ball, and you do that. You practice all those facets of that thing. It's magic, because you don't have to. The club pros have swing speeds around 100. The touring pros have swing speeds of 120, 125 mile an hour. My swing speed at age 82 is 90 at best. Okay, so. But with all that being said, you can get a 25-year-old male or female can get a swing speed up over that 100-mile-an-hour range, and that speed of the swing through the ball is what makes the ball travel. And then having all those facets of your body together to make it go in the right direction, you'll be a happy camper.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online. You can go to refocusradio.com and catch all these episodes, and go to our YouTube channel, Refocused Network. We're talking to our special guest today, Bob Labby. Go to boblabby.com. My last question for you is, when you think about the things that you can learn in sports that also it applies with life in real life, what's one thing that people can appreciate with the game of golf, and how that can also help them, how they look at life?
Well, as I said earlier, the game of golf is a game for honorable people who want to play by the rules, who want to, if they err and do not subscribe to the rule, that they tell on themselves and take a penalty stroke or two as necessary. And the game of golf, I've played a lot of different sports in my life, and I'm a fairly decent athlete, but The game of golf is the hardest game I've ever played. It's mentally extremely challenging. And, after you play 18 holes in competition, you are worn out. So what I would say to people is that, hey, if you get involved in golf and you play at a competitive level, you'll find it so similar to being in any walk of life, in any type of business, because it's highly competitive. It's an honorable game, and the way you play golf is the way you should conduct business. Same honorable, same honesty, because when you do that, you get the best results.
Well, once again, this on Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Bob Lobby. Go to his website, boblobby.com. Like always, I want to say to you, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the discussion.